So today we're doing another question here called smallest value of an array. And essentially what we're going to do here is we want to return the smallest value in an array, which is taken in by a method called find smallest. But in conjunction to actually finding the smallest number, we actually see that another value is passed into the method signature of find smallest, and it's called toReturn of type string. And essentially what we want to do here is not only do we want to find the smallest value in the array, but we also want to determine what toReturn is. It can either have two values. It can either have value or index. So toReturn can either be initialized to the string value or to the string index. And contingent upon what is the value of toReturn, we're either going to return the smallest value itself or the index at which the smallest value is found. So in order to do this here, actually I think it's glitching on me a little bit. Right. So in order to do this here, first I would want to use the standard algorithm for actually finding the smallest value in the array. And that is, of course, assuming that the smallest value in the array is the first value. And then, of course, we use a for loop to actually iterate through the length of the array. And as we iterate through the length of the array, if, of course, any given element at a particular index is less than the smallest value that we've conceived of, which is, of course, the first element in the array, then we want to set the smallest value to that particular element. And so as we iterate through, smallest value continuously is updated to whatever the smallest value may be. And this process is essentially repeated for the length of the array. And after it's all said and done, well, we want to return one of two things. We want to either return the index or the element itself called smallest value. But that, of course, is contingent upon the string toReturn, what value toReturn has. So we could say that if toReturn dot equals, because we're using strings, if toReturn is index, then we actually want to return the index. We want to return the index at which at which the smallest value was found. And if, of course, otherwise, we'll just say otherwise we want to return the smallest value itself. Now, I could have done if toReturn dot equals index and return the index at which the smallest value is found. Otherwise, if, and this is, of course, making another decision before making the catch-all, which is the else. Otherwise, if toReturn dot equals value, then return value. But I didn't do that because we can understand that toReturn can either have one of two values. Either it has the value of index, in which case we want to return the index at which the smallest value is found, or the string called toReturn either has the initialization of the string called value, in which case we want to return the smallest value itself. But since it only has these two values, I'll assume that if it's not equal to index, then it is in fact equal to value, in which case I'll just return the smallest value itself. So in order to actually return the index, I actually have to make a flag here. So I'm going to have a variable called index, and after I find the smallest value in the array, I'll actually flag the index here, and I'll set that equal to I, not nums of I, but I, because I is essentially the iteration upon which we are, the iteration where we have actually found the smallest value. And so we want to return that index, not nums of I. Nums of I returns an element. I would return the iteration, which corresponds with that element, the index, that is. So here, if of course toReturn dot equals the index, I want to just return the index, and of course index returns, index actually has I, and I is where the element, the smallest value was found, which is of course an element referenced by the index. And of course, otherwise return the smallest value itself. So this is fairly simple. I'll just return the smallest value, which was initialized to begin with. And as we move out here, we can actually test we can test if this code works, and of course it does.